Okay, friends. So today we are going to discuss. I'm just uploading a video on Dixon Technologies, which is my second pick. The first pick is IRCTC buy on dip stock. The second one is Dixon Technologies, that is also buy on dip stock. After a long time, or a gap of nearly 3 months, I have come back again to upload videos and stuff like that. I've come back routine to my job, routine to my life. It has been a very difficult 3 months for me and my family, as we have lost the most important person, or most beloved person, or the most precious person of our lives. That is my mom. Yeah. So that is the reason I was away from markets for a long time. May God rest her soul in peace. Let's now watch this video.
It's all about make in India. Can you make hardware in India? That's the central part of the question.
Absolutely. So I think there's no doubt that India was known more for its software power than hardware. But I think now the realization is setting in that we are sitting on the cusp of a major opportunity as a country. And the opportunity to make India as the #1 destination for export of electronic hardware products. And I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One, we have a large labor force, a trained labor force, and we also are very strong in R&D. So this could lead to a design-led manufacturing over a period of time. And there are also a slew of policy initiatives that the government announced recently. And the most remarkable and notable one being the PLI, the Production Linked Incentive Scheme, which basically gives money to the companies on the incremental sales. And there have been various policy initiatives. And also, I think the fact that all global companies are now looking at an alternative to our major competitor, which is China, which is the hub, which has been the hub for electronic manufacturing. So I think there is no doubt that we are sitting on a huge opportunity to make India as the next hub for electronic manufacturing.
Well, that's it. I mean, your main adversary when it comes to all this are these Chinese companies. And the Chinese companies have been at this game for a long time, and they've managed to reduce costs to the bare bones. How confident are you that you can do that in India, and Dixon Technologies can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at, our labor cost, it's one of the lowest in the world. And also our labor is one of the most productive in the world. I think what we are lacking is a strong component ecosystem. Because in spite of manufacturing almost 75% of the total requirement of $130 billion worth of electronic goods, we still import a lot of components. But I think that is going to change very fast. A lot of investments have been announced, especially under, again, the Production Linked Incentive Scheme. And we feel that the time has come that a lot of the global component manufacturers will also come to India. Because let's appreciate that there is a large market for the finished product. I'm sure we're already aware of the numbers that India is going to be the largest market for smartphones in the next few years. It's probably the fastest growing market in the world right now. It's expected that we'll be exporting mobile phones worth about $100 billion in the next 5 years. So there is no doubt that India is going to be a large market. And I think wherever there's a market, the component manufacturers follow. And once we do have the component manufacturing ecosystem, I think there is no stopping India and the Indian manufacturers.
Also talked about disability factors. What are these and what's needed to address them?
Sure. Yeah, I think there is no doubt that in spite of everything going for us as a country, there are certain disability factors that we face as manufacturers. And these disability factors are there in the form of high logistics cost because of not such a great infrastructure in place. There is also the high interest cost, even though there is an interest subvention scheme, but that's available directly to the exporter. So the entire value chain does not get the benefit of the interest subvention. So these are basically the disabilities. But I think with the production linked incentive scheme that has been announced, a lot of the disabilities have been compensated for. But I think it's extremely important that over the next 5 years, that's where the scheme is valid for. We as Indian companies build up the competencies, and the government focuses on removing these disabilities. You already heard in the recently announced budget that there is a huge focus on the infrastructure, and also improving the logistics costs. So I think that's already on top of the mind and the agenda, top of the agenda of the government and the bureaucrats, and that's extremely positive.
Do you think that electronic manufacturers will call for government policy to help the scrappage policy for automakers, for example?
Yeah, I think in the last few years, if you see, the government has taken huge steps and certain very bold policy initiatives to ensure that India does emerge as the hub. And I talked about the production link incentive scheme, which to me, as I mentioned, is a game changer because of many things. One, it builds global champions. It creates scale for the Indian companies, which is extremely important for them to become global leaders. And it also encourages companies to invest in backward integration. Also, you must have seen that the government, some time back, cut the tax rate for the manufacturing companies. And we believe that now with the rate of 17% for new companies and 22% for established companies, this probably is one of the most attractive rates, the taxation rates anywhere in the developed world.
There's so much talk about greening trade. What will India do about its electronics waste, and how will ESG factor into all of that?
Well, I think in the last few years, there has been a huge focus on the electronic waste, and there's a lot of onus has been put on brand owners to ensure that the e-waste is handled properly and it is recycled. And I think this awareness probably wasn't there many, many years back, but it is definitely setting in, and the laws which have come into place have also played a major role, that we are extremely conscious of the e-waste that we generate.
Sunil, you've got this Make in India policy, and I think that what we have is the Modi administration wanting India to have, $110 billion of mobile exports by 2025. 7 billion is the number at the moment. That's a big, big ramp up, isn't it? Do you think it's possible? Is it realistic, that time frame?
Well, I think absolutely is realistic. As I mentioned that, every major customer in the world is looking at alternatives. And India is the most attractive alternative now. We do, of course, have as Vietnam as a country where also the companies are looking at. But I think, as I mentioned, let's look at the huge advantages India has. Look at the policy initiatives that have come into place. Look at the large pool of manpower that we have, large pool of trained manpower that we have. If you do compare with countries like Vietnam, does have an issue as far as the manpower is concerned. So I think India is sitting on a sweet spot. We do have a very, very large market for these products. You must be aware of the figures that India already, the smartphone market is almost about 300 million pieces per annum, which we believe is the third largest in the world, and it is growing again. So that is extremely essential to, for companies to look at India, because one, there is a large domestic market, and also we have the talent available with us and the advantages that I talked about for, making India as a global hub for manufacturing.